ever feel like you're doing everything right, you're eating well, you're exercising, maybe even taking supplements, but your energy is still low, your brain still feels foggy, or you're dealing with tingling hands and feet? Well, it's easy to chalk this up to aging, but often there's a much simpler explanation, and that could be vitamin B deficiencies. Hi, I'm Sonia Hollis, a qualified nutritional therapist, and in today's video, we're going to be covering the everyday symptoms of vitamin B deficiencies, not just the textbook ones, but the ones that you might actually notice every day. Why deficiencies are so common, especially as we get older or take certain medications, and most importantly, the practical food and supplement steps that you can take to support your energy, mood, and long-term health. And because this can feel a little bit confusing, I've put together a free vitamin B deficiency checklist that highlights some of the main symptoms, food sources, risk factors so that you can start making sense of your own picture. And then you can grab that using the link I'll put below in this video. But before we jump in, please don't forget to like and subscribe and turn on your notifications so you never miss my science-backed tips. Okay, let's get started. So think of B vitamins as the spark plugs in your body. They don't provide the fuel, that's your food. But without them, you can't convert fuel into usable energy. That's why fatigue is usually the first red flag, not just being tired from a busy day, but that deep, dragging tiredness that just doesn't lift even with rest. And because each B vitamins also support specific jobs, from nerve function to mood regulating brain chemicals to red blood cells to skin and hair. And so when levels run low, you feel it in lots of different ways. So here's what this can actually look like in everyday life. Cracks at the corners of your mouth or a sore red tongue, that often points to a B2 deficiency. Skin rashes, breakouts, or your mood just feels flat. We've got the B3 and B6 vitamins, and these both play big roles in skin and brain health. Tingling or numbness in your hands or feet, that's one of the classic signs of low B12, and I cover more of this in detail in this video here. Feeling anxious, irritable, or struggling with low mood. Folate, so B9 and B6 are key players in serotonin and dopamine production. Hair thinning, brittle nails or skin changes, that's where B7 usually gets mentioned. But the truth is, it's often about the whole B complex working together. And the tricky part here, these symptoms often overlap. So fatigue, for example, could be B12, folate or B6. Tingling could be B12 or sometimes B1. And that's why testing is so valuable, because guessing can just take you in circles. So how do these deficiencies happen? There are a few major reasons. Aging. As we get older, stomach acid naturally declines, and that makes it harder to absorb B12, even if your diet looks good. Now, studies show up to 20 to 40% of older adults may have low or borderline B12 without even knowing it. Medications. So metformin, which is used for type 2 diabetes, is linked to B12 deficiency in around 30% of long-term users. PPIs and H2 blockers reduce stomach acid and B12 absorption, and the pill and anti-seizure drugs deplete B6, folate and B12. Gut health. So conditions like IBS, Crohn's, celiac or even frequent antibiotics can damage the gut lining or microbiome, reducing absorption of multiple B vitamins. And lifestyle, so high alcohol intake, chronic stress and ultra-processed diets all make the problem worse. So it's not just what you eat, it's whether your body can absorb and use it. And here's something you don't often hear in these conversations. Your genes can play a big role in how well you handle B vitamins. And this is called nutrigenomics, the study of how your DNA influences nutrition. For example, in my own nutrigenomic report, I carry a variant on the MTHFR gene, which slows down the conversion of folate into its active form, methylfolate, by up to 40%. So that means even with a good diet, my body doesn't make enough methylfolate unless I support it. There are also genes like FUT2, which affect how well you absorb B12 in the gut, and TCN2, which controls how efficiently B12 is transported into your cells. So if you carry certain versions of these, you may need more B12 than average. That's why two people who eat the same food, but one feels vibrant and the other still struggles, their genetics literally can change the outcome. So the practical takeaway here, if you know or suspect issues with folate or B12, look for methylated supplements like methylfolate or methocobalamin. They bypass some of these roadblocks. And if you'd like to go deeper, I actually offer nutrigenomic testing in my practice. It's a simple way to understand how your genes affect things like folate activation, B12 absorption, and overall energy metabolism. So many of my clients feel it's a real light bulb moment sometimes when we connect their genetics to how they're feeling. So if you're interested, I'll pop some details in the description below. Of course, food should always be your foundation. And one of the simplest ways to make sure that you're getting enough B vitamins and keeping your blood sugar steady at the same time is to think about the balance on your plate. Here's a really simple framework that I use with clients. Fill half your plate with non-starchy vegetables. So think leafy greens, broccoli, peppers, mushrooms. These are rich in folate, riboflavin, and other B vitamins. Add a quarter of your plate of protein foods like chicken, salmon, eggs, or lentils and beans if you're plant-based. And these bring in B12, niacin, and B6. And then the last quarter of your plate is for whole food carbs like quinoa, sweet potato, or brown rice, which provide B1 and keep your energy steady. And also don't forget the small portion of healthy fats which we need like avocado, olive oils, or nuts, which help with the absorption and support hormone balance. So when you build your plate this way, you're not just getting a steady stream of B vitamins, you're also balancing your blood sugar, which is one of the key ways to better energy and mood throughout the day. And if blood sugar balance is something that you've been struggling with, then I've got a whole video here which goes into more detail. Again, I'll pop it in the description below. So if you've made those plate changes and you're still struggling with fatigue, brain fog, or tingling, it's worth looking a little bit deeper, and that's where testing comes into it. So a serum B12 or folate test is usually the first step that your doctor will order. But here's the problem. Serum B12 measures the total B12 in your blood, not how much is actually usable. So it can look normal on paper while you still feel all the classic deficiency symptoms. That's why a more accurate test is active B12. This measures the fraction of B12 that's bound to transport proteins and actually available to use in your cells. And research shows it's a much earlier and more sensitive marker for deficiency compared to total serum B12. So if you've ever been told your B12 is fine, but you still feel exhausted, foggy, or have tingling, it's worth asking specifically for active B12. A homocysteine test is also incredibly useful because elevated homocysteine can point to low B6, folate, or B12 long before serum levels drop. And if you want the most complete picture, an organic acids test shows how well your metabolic pathways are functioning and whether you're truly activating these vitamins. If food and lifestyle aren't enough, then a well-formulated B complex is usually the safest foundation. And this is especially important if you're over 50 because absorption naturally declines with age. Vegan or vegetarian because B12 is only in animal foods, or if you're on medications like metformin, PPIs, or the pill, all of which can deplete B vitamins. So when choosing supplements, the form really matters. So for B12, the most effective are the active forms, methylcobalamin and adenosylcobalamin. These are readily usable compared to cyanocobalamin, which your body has to convert. For B6, look for P5P, pyridoxal 5-phosphate, and for folate, choose methylfolate rather than folic acid, especially if you have an MTHFR gene variant, which can reduce folic acid activation by up to 70%. One important note here, the B vitamins work as a team. So megadosing one in isolation can sometimes mask another deficiency. So for example, very high folic acid can correct the blood signs of B12 deficiency while nerve damage continues in the background. So that's why a balanced B complex is usually the best first step, with extra support for B12 or folate if your tests show that you need it. And don't forget the cofactors. So nutrients like magnesium, zinc and vitamin C all help B vitamins do their jobs more efficiently. So it's always about the bigger picture, not just one nutrient in isolation. So in summary, B vitamins are often called the energy vitamins for good reason. They power your metabolism, brain and nervous system, and when they're low, the effects ripple out into fatigue, tingling, mood changes, memory issues and even skin and hair health. Deficiencies are more common than most people think, not just because of diet, but also age, gut health, medications, and even genetics. And that's why two people can eat the same food but feel very different. So here's the takeaway. Start with food. Build balanced plates with protein, whole food carbs, vegetables, and healthy fats for steady energy and a broad range of B vitamins. If you're older, vegan, on medications like metformin or PPIs, or dealing with digestive issues, pay extra attention because you're in a higher risk group. And if symptoms persist, don't guess, get tested, ideally including active B12 and homocysteine, and consider a high quality methylated B complex for better absorption. And if you'd like to find a simple way to connect the dots, I've put together a free B vitamin deficiency checklist where it highlights the main symptoms, food sources and risk factors so you can see where the gaps might be. I'll put the link below in the description. So that's it for now. I hope you found this helpful. So please give a like and subscribe, and also check out our other videos on this channel, especially with the 7 warning signs of low B12. Okay, take care and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.